Lovely. Hi, everybody. So this is session 7, and this is the family. We're in the West direction, the family, and today we're going to talk about intergenerational trauma, what it is, and how to heal it. Hi, Jojo. Hi.
Hi, sorry
Hi.
I'm late. Hello, long
It's
time no
okay.
see.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you. How are you, Jojo? Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Did you have a good
So
day? Yeah.
yeah, I'm here. I'm in my parents' homes. So
Oh.
yeah, because today is Saturday.
That's right. So you went to see your mom and dad today. Lovely.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So
Well
the
done.
lesson is start, right?
Yeah, we're just about to start, just about to kick off. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can say hi to Minnie there if you want.
Hi, Minnie.
So how are you? Good to see you. I'm happy.
Long time no see. Yeah. So Minnie, do you have already start your work, or maybe you still have a vacation?
I'm looking for a new job right now.
Huh.
Uh,
Ah, you
yes,
still you are still looking for a new job.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Have a good wish to you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you can find you. I can hope that you can find your lovely job. You love the job you love.
Oh,
Yeah.
you, Joe. Oh, thank you.
And
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So today's lesson only our three people.
that's right. That's right, Jojo. And
Yeah.
I was
Right.
just
Okay.
talking to Minnie. So this one is on healing intergenerational trauma, and
Hmm.
so we'll just kick off maybe and get going, and then I can little by little explain. So
Ah.
yeah, first of all, we're going to talk about intergenerational trauma, what it is, and we're going to do. I'm just going to do a little prayer. Our intention is to heal ourselves, our ancestors, and the earth. And then we'll talk about the healing of the ancestral lineage. We'll discuss about how to heal ancestral trauma and forming healing circles. And then we'll do a meditation at the end to heal with ourselves and the ancestral lineage. So that's pretty much it for today. Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm just going to talk about what is a soul wound, and I'll share that with you there in a minute. So we're going to understand our past, what are our soul wounds, who we are, why we are the way we are. Yeah, and the impact of trauma, and then the process of healing the trauma, and why, when we're healing trauma, why it's so good to work in a community, in a circle, to support one another through the process. Okay, so Indigenous communities throughout our world, they have, gone through different experiences, events, and because of the conquest, because of colonization, and in that event, especially for the groups in South America, Africa, India, who experienced the European colonization. So they would have gone through pretty big traumas due to the loss of their people through disease, through the wars. They would have lost their people. They would have been forced to leave their homelands. Loss of food supply as well, which was cut off from them. So it's just acknowledging them, acknowledging what they've gone through, and also acknowledging when a group of people like this go through a trauma, the land also suffers, because remember, the land feels our feelings and our emotions. And so the land sometimes can be carrying these hurts from us. So in a way, when we do the healing, we're also thinking about the earth. And one of the things that I would like to point out as well is to remember, before we were, you know, how we are, our cities and communities are right now. We were all at one point in time Indigenous communities, and actually, through the research I was doing, all of the many of our countries were colonized at one point or another. Um, and so, you know, we might think, oh, Indigenous communities, it's them over there, but actually it's us. So I point that out for us to recommend, to recognize that we ourselves have gone through this trauma, rather our ancestors, and then you know, recognize as well the impact of that. So this photo here on the left, it's from the Inca tribe in Peru. Are you familiar with Peru, girls? The Inca civilization? No, don't
No.
worry, because today I'm going to talk about it. So yeah, so today we're going to cover, you know, South America, North, Central South America, the different places and the old civilizations from these cultures. So this is an Inca man and he's saying a prayer. And then on the right hand side, this is it's a corn, and you have the four colors of corn. There's a saying or a philosophy within the Mayan people in the south of Mexico, where they say that when we will see the four colors of corn, the red, white, black, and yellow, on the same cob, that will signify the unification of the four continents, of the four tribes of the world, and that when we see this, we'll actually begin to recognize how humanity has elevated to a more spiritual consciousness, and because of that, we will attain unity among us. So it's again, it's like another prophecy. You know, the North Americans, they have their prophecy, but also the South Americans and the Central Americans also have their prophecies about this time that we're going, this great healing time of our nations from these traumas that we've experienced. So I would like to start, girls, if it's okay with you. If you want to just take a moment, close your eyes, and I'm just going to say an opening prayer to guide us in this session today. So just take a big deep breath. So thank you, dear Spirit, for allowing me to be here today with the group. And my intention for this session is to bring about healing from the ancestral trauma and to help us understand what actually is intergenerational trauma so that we may become aware of it in ourselves and in others and work towards healing it. So that's my intention for today. And before I begin, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you to the great beings of the earth, the ancestors from all the generations and lineages that go back in time. And I invite you to come, the healed ancestors of the fifth mention above, to come and be with us here today, to bring in through the beautiful healing light, to assist in healing ourselves, our families, our communities, and our nations. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming here today to be with us, to assist us through this and in this work that we're about to embark on. Oh. And I'm just going to do a little song to invoke them, their presence. Just feel the peace and the love and the comfort and the healing. Nayo, nayo, nayo. Nayo, nayo, nayo. Nayo, nayo, nayo. Nayo, 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 And when you're ready, in your own time, very gently and slowly, you can come back to the room. How was that, girls? Were you able to relax?
Yeah. I love the voice you make. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. It
Yeah,
can make me feel relaxed and
yeah.
peace. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. And you, Minnie?
Yes,
Zo'n
me
doos.
and your voice, right, Maria? This voice.
Say that again. Say that again to me.
Your voice, uh, right? Your voice.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
this is voice. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's like lullaby, lullaby.
Yeah, lullaby, like to help you to go to sleep.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Relax.
lullaby.
A lullaby. I like that. Very good, very good. So, um, okay, girls. So we'll start, and then just to explain to you what is a soul wound. So a soul wound is actually Indigenous phrase. It comes from the Indigenous people, and it refers to the deep intergenerational and collective psychological and spiritual trauma resulting from colonization's forced assimilation policies. Things like residential boarding schools where they sent their children, the US government sent their kids, and the ongoing systemic injustices that they faced. So it's like this constant trauma that they're experiencing because of oppression and violence. And then what is the impact of that? It can cause profound feelings of disconnection, shame because they told them that their culture was evil, it was bad, um, and they didn't allow them to speak their languages. And when they actually even tried to speak their language, the children in their boarding school, there's stories of how they would even cut off their fingers. Yeah, so it was pretty cruel what happened to them. So, yeah, causing profound feelings, disconnection, shame, loss of meaning, and emptiness. And it can actually penetrate right into the heart and soul of a person. And that's why they call it soul wounding. And within Indigenous cultures, they actually feel it's like a poison, you know. So they actually talk about how another person has been poisoned to do that to them. And so it's like spreading this dart of poison into a person on a soul level, on an energetic level. And they recognize that it needs to be a very deep, profound healing, spiritual healing, because at the end of the day, they recognize it's like a spiritual sickness. And there needs to be a deep, deep spiritual healing to clear that energy so that the feelings of disconnection, pain, shame, anger, fear, all of those feelings can be transmuted and let go of. Yeah. And the other thing to talk about is that soul wounding, because if one person is wounded, especially a parent, and she then has a child, usually because of lack of parenting skills, she can pass that same wounding onto the children unless she goes, or he, a father, goes through the process of healing it. Yeah, so that's soul wounding. And this is intergenerational trauma. So you can see there's someone who experiences trauma like abuse can suffer from lifelong effects. Effects like anxiety, shame, depression, substance abuse, and risky behavior. When that person has children, the impact of the trauma can affect them. And the parents may develop a neglectful authoritarian style or project their trauma onto their children. As a result, the child develops a trauma due to growing up with a traumatized parent. This is intergenerational trauma, as the effects of trauma are passed down through one generation to the next, usually through the parents. Is that clear, Mine Jojo? Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay. So then, and then looking at why the trauma exists and this whole situation of conquest and colonization. Um, and so I guess, there was colonization, in Asia. There was also colonization in Europe, Russia, China, these different countries. But I guess European powers like Spain, Portugal, France, England, and the Netherlands, they established colonies in the North, Central, and South America, and then they began to start colonizing, um, after the Americas, Asia in the 15th century. And then from that, they followed on to colonizing Africa in the late 19th century, leading to a global network of colonies by the beginning of World War One. And here you can see in the picture, those green countries are the
Mm.
countries that were colonized in the, especially in the 15th to the 19th century. And then in the purple one, these are the ones that colonized the other countries. They're the colonizers or the conquerors. And then the ones in red are the countries that have never been colonized. But I see there that China is in red, but I know that China actually has been colonized, hasn't it, Jojo?
Maria, I don't know what does mean about colonize.
Colonized. I
Yeah.
don't have the translator. Can you check it there, Jojo, in your computer? Um,
Colonize. What does it
yeah.
mean? Yes.
So colonize, basically what it would mean, Jojo, is where you have one
Mhm.
country who tries to take over another. And when they take it over, they take the people's land, and
Ah.
usually they try to force their religion and system of government on the
Mhm.
people. And actually,
Mhm.
to be honest, they push those people out so that they can come in and settle in
Okay.
that place. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
actually feel at one point, I
Mhm.
think Japan colonized China, from what I remember. Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
maybe that's,
Yeah.
yeah, but maybe that's something to check in the history. So this is the conquest of Americas. So it began with Christopher Columbus in 1492, North America. Then Central America was Hernan Cortes, in 1512, and then South America, which is Peru, all of that area. The Incas, they really went to conquer in that period of time the main civilizations that were there at that time. So the main civilizations in South America was the Incas. The conquerors, they acquired territory in the Americas for Spain. They were driven by wealth, driven by glory, driven by the need to take the resources from the place, and also the territories, the land. So that was their whole idea. Conquest and colonization of North America. Again, basically through disease, violence, forced removal from their land, and as a result, they established their uh, their political system, their religions. Actually, they tried to convert the indigenous people into mostly Catholicism, because Spain, the Queen Isabella and Fernando, the king, at the time, they wanted to impose the Catholic religion into these areas, and it was just a way for them to create unity among these. And the impact was devastating. When the colonizers went from Europe into the Americas, they brought diseases like smallpox, and the indigenous people, they didn't have the immune system to fight it off. And as a result, they died in the thousands and the thousands and the thousands and the thousands. And actually, it's estimated in North America that 90% of the indigenous people were killed or died off, and the same in Central America, and I'm sure it's similar in South America. So it's complete decimation of the culture, of the people. Yeah, it was just a really hard time. And again, just to remind you, that energy stays in the land. And unless it's healed, and this is similar for your countries as well, unless it's healed, that energy keeps recycling and keeps repeating itself in these kind of colonizer conquest kind of behaviors, which I will talk about now. Okay, manifest destiny. I just wanted to share this with you because it'll kind of give you an idea of the mindset of the colonizers. So they when they came to America, they came to the East Coast, places like Boston, New York, a bit further south down like Victoria, and that's where they entered, right? But and then they lived there, they set up their colonies, but then they moved right across to the West Coast. And when they did that, they had this idea in their mind. It was like that they deserved, that it was their God given right to take the land from these indigenous people, that they're the ones who were civilizing these indigenous barbarians, really. That's what they were thinking. So the philosophy was used to justify territorial expansion through methods like war, which resulted in displacement and suffering of Native American populations, and the acquisition of vast new territories, such as those gained from Mexico after the Mexican war. That's another thing I need to say. America had war with Mexico and took I don't know how many of its states as well. Yeah, so I think the US was literally just trying to claim up this land, right? So let's go to the next one. The other part to talk about, you know, one of their policies, one of their ways to again, they considered the Indians like a problem, and they were thinking, how are we going to solve this problem? They're so ignorant, they're so backward, you know. That's what the Europeans thought. And so they decided to set up these boarding schools. And so what they did was they used to take the children from the age of 4 and forcibly take them from their families and put them in the boarding schools, and they would not come out. I don't know if they went out on vacations, but the thing is, when they were in the boarding schools, they couldn't speak their language. They would be slapped, their fingers would be cut off. They couldn't practice their spirituality, their religions, their culture. And this was actually the intention of the US government. They were trying to wipe out completely their culture, their way of life, their spirituality, their earth based spirituality. They just wanted to wipe it out. But as a result, the children, as I mentioned earlier, because of violence, verbal, emotional, sexual abuse that the children experience in these orphanages, that when they left them and went back into their communities, they took the violence with them. And this is where the intergenerational trauma started. This is where they identify it from. And as a result, they never healed the violence, and they never learned the parenting skills that their grandparents or great grandparents had. And they started to lose this. And this is when they began to see things like domestic violence between the partners, man and woman. They also started to see problems with addiction, a huge amount of alcoholism, and they actually even began to see suicide. And then later they began to see criminal activity. But it was all stemming from the trauma and the abuse and the violence that they experienced. And again, just to remind you, when one person inflicts pain on another, it's like that poison spreads into the person and then they spread it into the others. So that's how the intergenerational trauma was passed down within their communities. I guess if you can imagine a little child of 4 years of age crying out for mommy at night time, and mommy isn't there. And yeah, it's pretty, and it's just pretty stark. And they used to force them. Obviously, you know, it was kind of, there would be labor type things. And then the other thing is, you know, it was kind of like harsh education, harsh also, you know, the religion, the Catholic religion, you know, is a system of rules, and but we'll talk about that in a minute. So here you can see a picture of the school, and then you can see how, you know, they would cut off their hair, they would change their names, and they would give them Christian names. And if they had any ranking within their community, all of that was to be wiped out. So And you can just see there the pictures, how they would put them in suits. And, this was the whole thing of a, a culturization, or trying to culturize them into the white American way of being. But the other thing I need to mention here is, this man, you see him here, he became quite famous later on, because he was one of the, probably he studied and studied and became highly educated. And these people went on to become lawyers and doctors and all of this. But the thing is, they were working from the Western model, right? But not from the indigenous spirituality medicine model, because they began to feel shame for everything of their culture. So they began to just ignore it and not acknowledge it, which is kind of part of the whole soul wounding as well. And this is where they took their land from them. So what they would do is they would give them alcohol when they would have the meetings, and then again, the Native American person was not used to drinking alcohol, so it affected them. They couldn't think straight, and then before they knew it, they were signing off the land to these U.S. governments. Also, they would sign treaties, and then um, the U.S. government would change and implement acts like the Removal Act in 1830, and just forcibly push them off, even though there was an agreement. So the native indigenous people have an expression, and they used to say, the white man with his ways, and he speaks with a forked tongue. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression before. I'll just try and write it in the chat box. So speak with a forked tongue, with a forked tongue. So basically it means to be deceitful, yeah, to not tell the truth. So to be somebody who's not speaking the truth. And for them, this is really, really important to say. If somebody in their community ever told a lie, they would be ostracized from their community. They would not allow them to come back in until there was some form of reparation done. So it was inconceivable for them to have someone come and blatantly be completely dishonest. And we need to remember that they were extremely trusting. You'll see in a moment how Hernan Cortes came into Mexico, and the Moctezuma, who was the leader, the emperor of the Aztec civilization, he just opened his arms. He gave them all the gold and jewelry and everything. But the Westerner, with his mindset, it was like, oh, they have gold. Let's see what we get this part. Let's see what else we can get. But that's not how the indigenous people think. So for them, it was just inconceivable. Do you understand what I'm saying, Amy, Jojo?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It was just it wasn't part of their culture really. So, and then they weren't able to practice their culture, their religion, and their language. And as a result, they say that their soul, their spirit died, because they couldn't pray to their god. They couldn't dance, their dances. And this was their medicine. They couldn't connect with the moon and the sun and the stars, because all of this was seen to be evil. And also to talk to the trees, or the spirits of the wind. All of this was, what are you doing? This is evil, really. Yeah, so I'll just keep going there. Oh, and there's just one other thing I want to say. Ireland, all of your countries as well, girls, you all had this, indigenous wisdom. But over time, the different religions came and kind of indoctrinated their other belief systems. But today, I didn't realize this, but in Ireland, we have a saint. It's a Catholic saint. He's the founder of the Ireland. His name is Saint Patrick, and we celebrate St. Patrick's Day on the 17th of March. And today I had a student, she was asking me, so there's a famous saying, how St. Patrick came to Ireland and cleared out all the snakes. from our country. But the thing is, there's no snakes in Ireland. But actually, today I was doing research and I learned that refers to the old religion, the pagan earth-based religion. So what he was doing was actually wiping that out and replacing it with Christianity. So again, you know, the snake in Catholicism as a result has been given the symbol of being evil. So it's like poor snake. Overnight, it became evil. But within indigenous cultures, the snake is super, super important power animal because it's the one that transforms the dark into the light. It's the one who enlivens us, brings back our joy, our spirit, our enthusiasm. Yeah. So again, I just wanted to say that to you so you can get of an idea. It wasn't just, you know, the taking of their lands. It was the indoctrination, the belief systems that they were putting in the people's minds. And they call this the mind changer. They call this the mind changer. Because of this, though, they lost their spiritual strength. And when you lose your spiritual strength, then you become a victim and then you become sick. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it was like this psychological warfare that was going on as well. You know. Okay, oh sorry, just to go back. So you know, in the US government, the first president, I forget his name, it's gone. But anyway, Andrew Jackson, he was the seventh president that came into office after the independence was set up in 1774. And so this guy, he was actually from Irish descent. His mother and father were Scotch-Irish. They were from the north of Ireland. He came from a poor family. His father, they moved into the Appalachian Mountains, which was a very rural area in America. And his father died at the age of 3 weeks before he was born. But he came into this world kind of poor, but he hated the English. And so, because of what had happened to his mom and his brother and different things, and so he decided, I'm going to study, I'm going to get out of this. And he became quite ruthless, actually. But because of the war, winning the war of 1812, which was to help overthrow the English in America, he climbed the ranks and became president of America. And he's known also for implementing, remember I spoke about the treaties. So he implemented the Indian Removal Act. And this act forced the indigenous people to leave their ancestral lands and from Tennessee in America and to walk in the middle of winter with children and women with no clothes, just a little blanket, and a quarter of their population died on the way. And this is known as the Cherokee Trail of Tears. And it's actually one of the worst things that happened in American history during this time. And so Andrew Jackson, he was the person who really enforced this. I just wanted to, I won't say any more in a moment, just for you to remember, and I will talk about that in a minute again. So, but one of the things that I really want to say, remember the indigenous people's spirituality. And so, and again, how it's connected to the earth and to the land. And on the way, the children were dying, the older women were dying, and the mothers were crying. And they had lost all sense of hope, and they didn't think they were going to make it to Oklahoma, to the place. And so the older men, the men in the group, they started to pray to the Creator or Great Spirit and asked to send some kind of a sign or some kind of comfort to these women. And so in the middle of the winter, they began to see this yellow flower that you see here all along the path until they got to Oklahoma. Sometimes we can't believe these stories, but I guess I've had some experiences to help me understand even these unbelievable things can actually happen. And so this gave the women the strength to carry on and to get to the destination. And today, their culture is thriving. They're actually, they've come back, they've healed themselves, and they started to thrive again. Okay, so this is the westward expansion. Then when they moved from the east coast right across the west, and they moved in these carriages. These were the Europeans, the white settlers, and they moved across. But there was a lot of problems with the Indians. There was wars and things and conflicts. And also, remember, the Americans, they built the railway right through the plains of America. And this is where the bison, have you ever seen the bison? Like those big buffaloes, bison animals before? Oh, and I forgot to put in a picture. So, yeah, so they're the, just one second. Oh, okay, I'll get it there in a minute for you. So the bison were these big, big animals, but they were in the thousands and they lived on, they killed them all off. They killed them all off. And
Mm,
and there's pictures of their skulls, and they would sell their skulls and they would sell their furs. They killed them all. From the trains, they would pay them money to just shoot and kill them off. Yeah, it's horrendous. But the reason why they did that as well, because that was their food supply. That was their main source of food. And then when the bison was killed, they were hungry. And then when the American government said, if you don't obey our laws, if you don't go into reservations, then you're just going to die off. So they forced them through starvation to obey the American laws, again, which was completely soul destroying. And just another note, which is really important, this was happening right up until the 1970s. They forced the women to be sterilized without their
sterilize.
consent. Sterilize a woman
Sterilize.
is to prevent them from getting pregnant, is prevent them from having children. And this was a way to also, how do you say, kill off the indigenous, the Native American. Do you understand?
Mhm.
So,
So
sterilize. So they want to make this woman. They
child
don't have any
childless,
children.
any children.
Mhm.
But
Oh, that's
because of
very cruel.
very
This
cool.
this terrible, Maria.
This is why this was so hard for me to prepare this, guys. This was one of the hardest weeks I've put down bringing this together because there's been times I've been crying and I don't stop. What happened? But the sad thing is these women. Can you imagine the trauma and the sadness? Like, okay, it's one thing you don't want a child, but most women want kids. you know um Anyhow, so yeah, the thing is that was a way of them. It's kind of like a genocide tactic. We call this genocide. Have you ever heard of the word genocide before?
Mm-mm. No.
Genocide? No. What does it mean?
Genocide. uh,
Genocide. I
I'll
find
just
that
write it. Genocide. uh,
just like a human
yeah,
being.
yeah, it's to kill off a group of people. A genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is what a lot of the European conquerors did all over, especially in North, Central, and South America, and also in the Africa and in India. Mhm. So just to give you an idea, concept. So I think you're beginning to understand why there's so much trauma, even to this day, and especially in these countries. And the other thing, sorry, I need to say is really important. In Brazil, in South America, it's got the highest rate of feminicides. Have you ever heard of that word? I'm using a lot of words today.
Yeah.
Um, Feminicide. I'll just write it aside. So a feminicide is where a woman is killed intentionally by a man. And Brazil has got the highest rate in the whole world, and Mexico is number 2.
Oh,
And the other thing is the Native American population are constantly going through this as well, missing and murdered women. It's another part of the impact of colonization. But the one thing I really need to point out here, when the Europeans came into North America, they brought prisoners from Africa, from Asia, from different countries, and they just let them loose and they raped their women. And this is another thing of the soul wounding. These women, they were not used to this. They had communities where their men respected them, where the women were actually the leaders in the communities, the ones who organized their families, their children. And all of a sudden, you have these men come in with this energy and then infect these women, not just with with babies, but also with this kind of spiritual disease, is what we'll call it. And another thing to point is after they got pregnant, now we've got this thing of mestizos, and mestizos is where you have a mixed race. Mestizos. So I'm using a lot of words today. So I'm just going to write that word as well. It's called mestizos. Mestizos. Do you understand that one there?
No, mestizo. Let me
Oh, okay.
check.
Um,
Mas.
so, so it's mixed race. It's white and indigenous, and they come together. You've got a mixed race. And actually, if you look today at the majority of people in Central and South America, they are of mestizos, and also in North America because of the European integration. Yeah. Mhm. Is that clear? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So now I just wanted to share with you what were the native North American communities like before the Europeans came here or into these countries. So you had these different tribes. They had their culture, they had their language. They used to pass down their wisdom, the native indigenous spirituality wisdom through stories. They would sit in community circles. There wasn't like just one family. They would all work together and support each other. They had a thing called a clan system. I'll just write it again in the chat box. Clan system. And so through the clan system, each family had a job within the community. One family might be the ones to bring to do the basket weaving. Another one might make the teepees. Another one might make the blankets. Another one might be the one to get the fish. But I guess the beautiful thing is they all work together in community and in harmony with one another. And if there was difficulties, they would sit in a council and try to sort out their difficulties with one another through dialogue, through communication. Yeah. Um, so who have inhabited the continent, and they were here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before the Europeans, before they had any contact with Europeans. They developed a wide variety of social structures, languages, way of life across the continents, and diverse regions from the Arctic down into the southeast. Okay, and this is their spirituality, their Native American spirituality. It emphasizes a deep connection with nature in the spiritual world, centered on respect for the Great Spirit and all living beings. And they believe in interconnection. And they also recognize if I harm one being, I'm actually harming myself. And also, they recognized how they were constantly being guided by their ancestors. So they had a lot of connection with their ancestors. And key aspects to include is their creation stories, exploring the origins, their healing rituals, their ceremonies, all of these things that I'm teaching you, and the bonding and spiritual importance of land and geography. So that's that one. And that's just another bit of information about their earth-based spirituality. So, and then again, the other thing to talk about is their spirituality was feminine based. The the conquerors, the European spirituality was more masculine based. It was like God in the sky. But for them, their spirituality came from the Mother Earth, from the feminine, and White Buffalo Calf Woman was one of these spiritual beings that came to them and used to support and help them. And she spoke about the seven sacred rites and the sacred Chanumpa pipe, which was they use in their ceremonies to bring peace to themselves, their families, and their communities. And the legend says that she appeared to them to guide humanity towards peace and harmony. So she's an important figure in their culture, in their way of life. And then this is Central America, and so it was Hernan Cortes came into Mexico in 1519, and oops, and then just to explain a little bit, there is different groups, different civilizations that existed in Mexico before the Spaniards came, and some of the important ones were the Aztecs. And so Hernan Cortes, he was directed to go, which is Mexico City now, where they used to have their Tenochtitlan, which is their big sacred sites, and this is where they used to have their ceremonies and everything. So he came in, he conquered them. There was conflict, and a lot of the people died. But these are just some pictures of their leaders, and they used to have this irrigation water system. They would grow their crops. Supposedly, it was so clean, and they had these very advanced medicine system as well, with herbs and natural healing. And again, the other thing I need to say, these people, from North America down into South America. So, and then in once Hernan Cortes got in, there was a thing called sacrifices, Jojo. So they would cut off their heads. The indigenous people, they used to do sacrifices, and for the Europeans, they thought this was horrendous. So they,
You know,
they
I just find that all of this story about the history,
yeah,
especially about women's what they have faced, what they have through, is very cruel, as so that's very can make me feel so sad, because at that time all of them have to face their terrible situations, and have to maybe lose their life and lose their family and lose their soul, their inner soul, and their spiritual soul. That's very cruel.
exactly, ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
And on other side, I also think maybe we we are so lucky, right? Because we live in that time, in this moment, so we don't need to through this history. We don't need um to to through this cruel situation. So that's all.
Okay. Okay.
Can you understand
Yeah,
what
I
I
can,
want to
Jojo.
express?
I can. But in a way, we are experiencing this history because of the trauma, because of,
Yeah.
the world wars that we see happening right
Mm-hmm.
now, the different
Mm-hmm.
events. And that's all a consequence of this period of time, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not been healed, not just in South America or North or Central America or in
Yeah.
Africa, but in,
Mm-hmm.
in Palestine, in Israel, in Russia, all of these different things, in Iran, Iraq, different parts of the world. It's just a consequence, Jojo, of
Yeah.
this. Yeah. And it's like this poison. is spiritual poison or sickness or illness that has infected our mind, our heart, and our spirit is still impacting all of us and will continue to impact the next generations if we don't take measures to stop it and to start to heal it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
As you said, I believe that all of them in that moment, in the history time, the moment they always lose their stress, their soul stress, and when they lose their stress, they they will become sickness.
exactly, mentally,
And
emotionally, physically, and
yeah,
spiritually. Yeah.
um, so but at that moment they didn't know how to healing themselves. They
And
don't know.
that's a very good point, Jojo. They did know how to heal themselves, but
Yeah.
because the US government forbade them from practicing their culture and their healing ways and their
Mhm.
dances and their
Yeah.
ceremonies, they couldn't heal themselves.
That's very cruel because you know I believe that their language, their culture, their dance, all of this as their belief, right?
Mhm.
So when the government, when the US government forbid them do this, okay, I think just like kill of this their life. It's like just kill of their
Yeah,
life.
and they say that is when their immune system became weak, like really, really weak. And if you think about an immune system is to help fight off disease, right? So that's
Yeah.
because their spirit was dead. They were like walking dead, Jojo.
Yeah, because I think all of this about spiritual things build a spiritual world to them. But I think what the US government do this, just like fight their spiritual world. That's very not good.
Yeah. And the same thing happened in Mexico, Jojo. And the same thing happened in South America as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay,
And, but
please. Go ahead.
so, but one of the hard things, so just to explain again, the 12 Franciscans, they were the Catholic religion. So Hernan Cortes contacted Spain and said, please send some pastors or religious people to help convert these barbarians into the Catholic religion. So that's kind of part of the story. That's what's said. So they came, and this is the meeting, a picture of the meeting of how it was. And so they met with the leader of the Aztec group at the time, who was Cuauhtemoc. And so they had this meeting, and then they met with the high up officials within the Aztec organization. And so they began to work or teach their sons this religion. And then that's how it started to infiltrate. It was called the evangelization. Evangelization is where you bring the word of Jesus to a group of people, where you bring the Christian Catholic faith to a group of people. Yeah. Is that
Mhm.
clear? But the thing is, Jojo, when they did that, if the people didn't, if the people didn't, what's the word, want to become Catholics, they tortured them.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a love kind of thing. It was pretty barbarian. But the other thing to mention, you have people within the different levels of Aztec society as well. And so for some of them, if they had privileges, it suited them to become Catholic. They may not practice the faith, but because of the royalties or because of the income or privileged position, it suited them to become Catholic. So they would say, oh, I'm Catholic, but they weren't really. Do you understand? Yeah. So it's like if I said to you, "Oh, Jojo, you're going to be the leader of this group. Just become Catholic." So it kind of
Okay.
later you can have a read of that there. So the other thing I just wanted to mention is when the Catholics came, they came and they, the indigenous people all through North, South, and Central America, they had their own gods and goddesses, and the gods and goddesses kind of were, the god of rain, the god of thunder, the god of the corn, Shilonen, the goddess of corn. So all of these, they saw them like spiritual entities. It was like they had this spirit, this life, and they honored them and they gave thanks to them and they left them offerings and they said them prayers. But when the Europeans came, they said no, 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 no more of that, and they started to implement their own Christian saints. So you can see here underneath is Tonantzin, which is the Aztec um, divine Earth Mother. And then they came in and put in Guadalupe, who's a bit like the Virgin Mary in Europe. Yeah. And so today they actually have pilgrims and they venerate and they go to Mexico City to honor her. But she was once Tonantzin, the goddess Tonantzin. Right. And then here we have other parts of how they began to mix the Catholicism with the indigenous culture, basically. And we call this syncretism. Syncretism. So they began to mix. And, the indigenous festivals. So if there was a Catholic festival, the big one, Jojo, you may have seen the movie Coco, The Day of the Dead.
Coco?
Yeah, have you
How
seen that
about
movie?
Chanel Coco?
No, no. Coco. It's a movie. Have you ever seen it? The movie Coco?
No, no. I just have listened Chanel Coco.
Oh no. Okay. So this is a movie. It's called The Day of the Dead. I'll send the link to you later. So basically, Jojo, this
Mhm.
this this ceremony, this ritual, it was to honor the ancestors. Yeah. So they
Oh, yeah. Maria? Have you sent the information on chat box?
yeah, I just sent it to you there now.
On the chat box, but we didn't create this sentence because I don't know why. Because when I want to into the checkbox situation, it's
Oh,
remind me, just team member of this meeting can see it, can use it.
okay. Thanks for telling me
Yeah.
that. So I will fix that afterwards. I probably can't do it now,
Mhm.
but yeah. Okay. Sorry, Jojo. I
It's
will fix.
okay. That is okay. Mhm.
Okay, and I'll send that message to you afterwards as well. Okay, so yeah, and this is basically, so their festivals, like the Day of the Dead was always celebrated in August, but the Christian, All Saints, All Souls Day, when the people would die, they would honor them, was in October, November. So then they moved the Day of the Dead to October in November, and this is how they kind of the people said, okay, okay, we'll accept your religion, but don't take this festival, which is one of the most important festivals in Mexico, is how they honor their ancestors on the Day of the Dead. Yeah. So that's just give you an example of how they mixed the Catholic religion with the indigenous and they syncretized them. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
also
Okay.
the other thing to say, their temples, they covered them over with earth and they built churches on top of them
Mhm.
so that they would wipe out, you can see here all of these temples, so that they would wipe out all of this culture. Again, similar to North America. Let's wipe out this culture. Let's wipe out this belief system, this pagan belief system. The same thing. So they would just cover them over, and then on top, they would put a church. And today, Jojo, like where I live, near where I live, there's 365 churches in the area called Cholula, where it was the biggest pyramid. And they did that so that they would hear the church bell ring every day in a community around the area. It's just crazy. You know, it's just part of the story, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's really, you know, part of the conquering. And the other thing I think is really important, I don't know if you ever heard of the Santa Inquisition before.
Intercession? No.
No. So this was another tactic that they used, Jojo. If you did not adhere to the Christian authority, the Christian belief system, they would burn you at a stake.
But I can find some information from the pictures. It's about women's
Again,
women
it's
women's
women.
they will um I don't know how to say, they will they would use some cruel ways to them.
Yeah, to kill them. Yeah.
To kill them. Oh, okay. So I don't know why was the woman, why always the woman have to face it, have to mm, have to been killed,
I,
use
I
as
will
some cruel ways.
I will continue. So this is the Mayan civilization. The Mayans were another group of people. They lived in south of Mexico, Guatemala,
Mhm.
Belize, Honduras, and they're renowned for their knowledge, advanced knowledge, their maths, their social structure. Again, they had gods and goddesses as well in their religion. And the decline of the Mayan culture started before actually the Spaniards arrived. But the other thing to say, Jojo, their culture still exists. Their people are still there in south of Mexico. They still have their language, their traditions, and their connection to the land. And they're actually getting quite strong now again and reclaiming that old ancestral wisdom, that old medicine knowledge, and trying to build up their communities as well. Okay, so, and this
Mhm.
is in South America. So at that time, Peru, the Incas were the people who were, you know, the most advanced civilizations. So the conquerors, they went there to conquer them. Again, you know, they presented them with the Bible. But I think Francisco Pizarro was the conquistador. I forget the name of the person who was in charge in Peru, but it supposedly said he lifted the Bible to his ear and said, "What kind of God is this that doesn't speak?" Just threw it to the floor. Um, so yeah, so just give you an idea. And then again, you know, the wisdom keepers of these traditions, the wisdom keepers were the ones who held the old sacred knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. And so they maintained, the conquerors, if we kill them and burn their sacred texts, in this way, we can wipe out their culture. So this is what happened. And that happened from the 1400s to the 1700s, when tens and thousands of women and men were executed across Europe, and the colonies burned, drowned, and hanged, all under the church's orders. What kind of a church was this?
The churches the
Yeah,
churches order, just like the leader in the church.
in the church, yeah. But it was
Okay.
coming also from the king and queen of Spain, right? They had state and church were working together. So did they know too much? Healing outside the clergy, speaking to spirit without a pulpit, carrying divine medicine in their hands and ancestral memory in their blood. This is really what the wisdom keepers were about. Okay,
Mhm.
and this, to go back to your women, Jojo, this is where we had in Europe the burning of the women. And this started in 1450 and did not finish until 1750. But this is really, really important to note, because why? These women the medicine women, they were the medicine holders, the healers in our communities, and they're the ones who had a lot of knowledge about, you know, the different plants, they were very, very skilled, but they called them witches, and they accused them of witchcraft, and for that reason, and also for not believing in the Christian faith, for continuing to be connected to nature, for holding the nature beliefs, they burned them. And supposedly there was 40 to 60,000 of them burnt in those years. But one of the things I need to point out here, the impact of killing these medicine women were the loss of indigenous and folk healing knowledge, herbal and plant-based remedies, holistic approach to healing. Remember, today we're just with this physical disease approach. They did not think like that. They spoke about the mind, the body, and the spirit needs to be healed for a person to heal. We lost that information. Also, the suppression of women's autonomy, which I mentioned to you earlier. The decline of female healers, the witch hunts, were part of the broader effort to undermine women's power, which is still going on today, and the authority within the communities, including their role as healers. And then what we began to see, instead of these matriarchal lineages, we began to see the patriarchal system come into place, and then the male dominated medical system under the control of the church and the state.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the church who was trying to wipe out the women. It was the church who was trying to suppress the women from, from practicing their medicine. And as a result, this is what we have, a male dominated medical institution that just focuses on the physical body, that does not, that uses medications which have lots of side effects, that do not recognize the power of the herbal medicine, the natural medicine, that does not recognize the spirit of the human being, and that the true sickness is the sickness of the spirit. So this is like a very methodical kind of system, mechanical actually is the word. It does not take into consideration the soul. And also in psychiatry, a lot of things that has happened is we do not take into consideration the soul of the individual. Do you understand, Jojo? So they
I
killed all
don't.
the women. They killed all the women. They killed all the
Yeah.
medicine. And then they bring this system into place, this male-orientated system. And there's no women here, if you can see. And there was no.
Yeah. So in that times, um, why they kill the medical have a medicine knowledge woman.
Because, Jojo, they maintained that they were practicing witchcraft on them. They
Which
made
color?
witchcraft. Ooh, witchcraft is where you put a spell on somebody, and you make them sick.
I
Witchcraft.
change.
Witchcraft. Witchcraft. Mm,
WITCH. Oh, witchcraft.
yeah,
Witchcraft. So they they um they think when the women have a medicine knowledge, they just like a witchcraft.
witchcraft. Yeah, and that they're more
Witchcraft.
powerful than them. And the other thing is, the medicine women didn't need a priest. The medicine woman could go directly to God and communicate to God without needing to go through a priest, without needing to go through a man for guidance, for direction. They were able to get their own inner wisdom from their own soul, Jojo.
I think that's very uh unfair.
Just a lot of control, a lot of
Yeah.
control. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's very unfair to many women at that time because but even though above the men they still have a low I don't know how to say even though to many men they always have a low situation.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So these men were also under the king and queen.
Status.
Yeah, they were under the ruling of the higher up. They were filled with fear as well, Jojo. Status, yeah.
Okay.
They had a low
Yeah.
status. They were following instructions. They were doing what they were being told. And if they didn't do that, they would have been killed as well. Do you understand? So it was just this fear, 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 top dog. And then, but can you imagine the society that was existing because of this? This is Australia. This will just give you an idea of what was happening to the Indigenous people in Australia. And these people were slaves from Africa. And today I didn't realize Brazil is here and Africa is right here. And actually, they sent a lot of slaves from Africa into Brazil. So this is even harder again, what happened in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of these people would not survive very long, Jojo, because of the mistreatment. Maybe 2 years in some cases. Their lifespan, they would be dead by 35, 40 years of age,
Mm.
because of the hard labor. This is the conquest of Africa. This used to be one nation, and then you had Europeans come in and divide up the whole country. And because of that, that's why there's so much uh, disharmony and
Mm-hmm.
conflict and unwellness there. Um, and then just to come back to my own country. So remember what I said about a genocide, when you kill somebody off.
Genocide. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see it there. So, Ireland was the first country that the English people conquered. And everything that they did in Ireland, they went on to replicate it in other countries after that. And so, just to kind of give you an idea, so the Native Americans went through genocide, the Irish people had gone through genocide. Again, I don't know if you ever heard about the Great Hunger in 1845 to 1852. This is where 1.5 million people starved to death because they had no food, Jojo.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
and the other 1 million or so went to immigrate to America and Canada. And so, and the thing is, this is not so long ago, actually. Like my grandmother, her mother can even remember this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. In our country, maybe my grandfather and my grandmother, they all of them have to experience starving half time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of the political situation, I imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oppression as well. So this is just to go on to the next part. This is the impact of intergenerational trauma. How does it affect us? Low self-esteem, mental illness, domestic abuse, addictions, parenting issues, what I mentioned earlier, suicide, homelessness, youth at risk, health issues such as diabetes, heart disease, low or no education. This is the impact of intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, just to kind of give a context of our world right now, it's not just the
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous people are suffering because of everything that the people have gone through in our world. It's estimated that 1 in 4 adults experience difficulty with addiction, nicotine, drugs, alcohol, caffeine, internet, social media, sex, gambling, food shopping, whatever it is. And it's a huge, huge problem right now in our world. And the other huge problem is mental illness, but mostly anxiety and depression. Yeah, 1 billion people worldwide are experiencing mental illness today. And
Mm-hmm.
and again, and what does depression, sleep disturbances, avoidance, irritability, self-harming. But you can see there's two parts there. You've got the tree above, and then you've got the roots. So, and the root is coming from the fear and the anger and the grief, the sadness. And these are the things that we need to heal in our soils so that we can actually become healthy mentally and emotionally again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So this uh in that depression too, all of this impact. Um. after the upheaval, they have a spiritual sick.
Yeah. In the grandmother, grandfather, they never healed. So it passed into the next generation and into the next generation, Jojo.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
how what's have different about the above of the tree and the bottom of the tree?
Good question. You're amazing. Okay, so the bottom of the tree, Jojo, is the intergenerational trauma. It's what our grandparents experienced, and it's still there. It's not healed. And when it's not healed, it extends up to the top of the tree. And it just goes in this
Mm-hmm.
vicious cycle. But what's fueling this is the intergeneration trauma. It's the fear,
Mm-hmm.
it's the shame, it's the anger, it's the sadness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's,
Ah.
that our father, our mother experienced, but could never talk about it, could never express it, could never, didn't have the tools to heal
Mm-hmm.
themselves
Yeah.
spiritually, even
Yeah.
though, the tools are there, but we don't have them because we've got this false beliefs, in
Mm-hmm.
our mind, that you're a sinner, you're a bad person if you get angry. No, I'm actually experiencing pain. I need to express it in a healthy way. I don't need to suppress it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're
Okay.
in.
I got
So
it. Mm-hmm.
you get, yeah,
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
you're welcome. Okay. So, and then just again, what is another impact? The murdered women that's happening in North America with Indigenous women right now is horrendous. And this
Mm-hmm.
is coming from the intergenerational trauma. As I mentioned earlier, how, they left prisoners come out of jails and come and rape these women. And it's just this vicious cycle that's gone into their children and their next children and their next children. And now you've got their own men mistreating their women. And that's another really important thing to say. When people are sick, who are the first people they're going to lash out on? They're not going to lash out on the superiors because they know they can't scream at them or they'll get killed. So they lash out their wives and their children.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, Jojo? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're hurting, who do you lash out at? The people that are in front of you, your own
Mm.
family. And this is where you bring your own sickness into your own families.
Just like when I am sick, maybe um the recent the original from my parents, and I will bring their sickness to my my children maybe in the future. So
Exactly.
it's like generalizing general
Generation.
generation generation sick generation charmer.
Exactly.
Okay.
You get
Mhm.
it?
Okay, I get it. Mhm.
Okay. And then once again, the impact of abuse, it kind of just will tell you, you come into this situation of self-hatred, you start hurting yourself, you start doubting yourself, you start, like the shame, inbuilt shame, and
Mhm.
fear of rejection. And this is where we have conflicts then in our relationships: low self-esteem, abusive, controlling, possessive, dominant. So the same thing that, the same behavior of the conqueror, like
Mhm.
those people that came from Europe, how they treated the men and the women. Now you've got the men treating their women with the exact same behaviors:
Mhm.
being possessive, being controlling, being jealous, being dominant, being a sense of entitlement. You owe me, you're my possession. You need to make my food. You need to, do as I say. That's what
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in Mexico. But
Mhm.
it's all coming from this low self esteem, low sense of self worth, intense anger, intense fear, codependency, boundary issues, enmeshment, all of these things, Jojo, that we need to look at if we're going to heal this. If we can get from a place of self hatred to self respect. And when we
Mhm.
can get to a place of self respect, then we have encouragement, peace of mind, fulfillment. Then we're bringing back the well being and the healing to our communities. But we need to acknowledge what's happening. We need to understand what's happening. The other thing, I'm showing you these pictures now because, Jojo, the thing is, The exact same thing happened in Ireland, in England, and in other countries.
Yeah.
You know, so those boarding schools, it was the same in Ireland. You know, these children, they're orphans because supposedly they had babies. The women, another thing, had babies outside of wedlock and they weren't married, and this was considered to be a sin. So they took their children from them.
Mm.
They adopted them off to America in some cases. These women never saw their children again, in lots of cases. And, you know, shame on the family, shame on you. They were then sent into, you know, the young people were sent into these industrial schools, mistreated. And this, if sometimes they were sent into this psychiatric hospital. And if you spoke out in the church about any of the teachings, they would surround you and pick you up and bring you into this mental institution, and you would never come out again. That happened to one of my family members, Jojo.
Yeah, really? So they never have any
No,
chance get out.
no,
They always in
they're
the,
locked up in there,
stay in there.
determined to be mentally ill, sick,
Mm, that's
because
very that sound very sad. Hmm.
so that'll just give you an idea of the control, the control.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
because of that type of control, then parents in the home try to exercise that authoritarian control on their children. And this is where we really get sick because we're not living our own lives. We're not
Yeah.
being authentic. We're not being real. And that's where the mental illness really comes to fore. And this is why, Jojo, I feel it's so important to bring this information to people so that first and foremost, we become aware. Why are we sick? Where does the sickness come from? And what can we do to change this? These are the
Mm-hmm.
these are the Magdalene laundries. So they would, if the women got pregnant, they would send them in. This is even worse. They would send them into these laundries. They were young girls, Jojo. They would have them working from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, wash
Mm-hmm.
linen. The government was getting money for having these girls here. The nuns were making money off these girls because of the laundry services, cleaning laundry services they were providing. And number three, they were getting money from the babies that they were sending out to America to be adopted.
Mm-hmm.
These institutions became very, very wealthy.
Mm.
And one of the sad things, Jojo, is, you know, they found their babies' bodies in a tank. 880, 861 babies' bodies. I think that was the number in a water tank.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They kill
Um.
they kill the
Yeah.
babies sometimes, Jojo.
Yeah. So it's like when a woman have a little baby, and they can send the baby to this place, and this place can become wealthy because they have some they can receive some money from this woman,
From the government for
from
holding,
the government.
because this,
Okay.
remember, it was a church government scheme that was set up.
Okay.
So the
Mm-hmm.
church government, number two, they were making money because of the adoption. They would sell the babies to parents in America who wanted a baby.
So the baby is okay. Yeah. So because about many people, parents in America, some of them they don't have any children, so
Exactly.
they can buy for the children from this place.
Yes.
But actually, and in today maybe in our country, it still have the wave. It still have the something happened. Because um maybe some parents, they will solve their children in a wave, solve their children in a wave. Many governments and the lawyer, they can't help these things, but they can do this, they can solve their children. So I think maybe to them, children to them just like a tool to make money. That's very making me feel sad.
This is a hard one. This is the hardest lesson we'll have. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. And then just the next thing to say, racism
Okay.
against Indigenous people. There's still a lot of racism, especially in North, Central, and South America and other African and other countries. And I'm sure it's similar in China.
Yeah.
And this white supremacy, this white man is superior. That mentality still carries on in many, many countries as well. So what is the impact of colonization? Loss of language, loss of culture, loss of land and relationship or connection to the land, loss of people, deaths due to disease and war, loss of a way of life, loss of respect for the feminine, which we've talked about, loss of earth, medicine, spirituality, and healing practices, which we've talked about, and loss of parenting skills, family structure. This is then where we begin to see disintegration, domestic violence, and addiction begin to take hold, because the family is actually the most important. And once the family breaks down, the society breaks down. Okay, and then just to become kind of again to recap. So the concepts that the conquerors brought with them from Europe to the Americas and other countries was a patriarchal mythological god in the sky, which intimidated the native feminine traditions of Mother Earth, feminine form. Earth no longer was worshipped or respected, and then the trees and the forests and the animals began to become plundered, basically taken and used and killed for their own needs without any regard. Is that easy? Do you understand? Number one. Number two, they follow the rules in the black book, needed intermediary to communicate with God. So just as I mentioned earlier, you needed a priest, you needed somebody to talk to God, or or you needed the black book to guide you. So you could never really communicate yourself. That was kind of seen as
Okay.
not healthy. I think you get the idea. Number three, it was a rule-driven society. Constitution, 10 commandments, laws bring order to people's lives. But in the Indigenous way, it's concepts, ideas that change humanity and bring true healing. And a vision, having a vision and holding a vision is how we can bring real change into humanity, and also having recognizing spirit and intent, that our spiritual intentions are also very important. Humans have dominion over the plants and animals. They're the masters, hence the lack of respect for the natural world. Humans were not able to communicate with the rivers, trees, mountains, or to God. It was just seen as maybe evil, perhaps. Sin, evil, hell, concepts unknown. They didn't even know about these things. There was no such thing as a bad God. There was no such thing as a punishing God. And again, remember, all of this is like psychological warfare to the mind. And medicine and healing, you heal the body, but within indigenous cultures, you heal the spirit and the soul. Is that clear, Jojo? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just to give kind of wrap up here, understanding the psychology of the conqueror. So it's that sense of, superiority, but really inferiority. When you need to feel superior to other people, it's because you feel inferior in yourself. You're trying to be the king of the hill, but really, what hill?
What hill? So that's like sense of super reality.
Superpower.
Change king. So it's like the leader.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
can
I'm the leader. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
I'm the one who mans here. I'm the one who, yeah.
Okay.
But really, it's all coming from low self-esteem and trying to prove your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Really, somebody who knows themselves
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to do this. And again, this whole thing of caretaking, rescuing. I'm the brave knight. I'm going to rescue the damsel. This kind of a thing as well. But again, control, manipulation, grab and take. I'm going to take whatever I want, and I don't care, and I'm not even going to ask permission. Like I'm always saying, when you connect to the tree, ask permission. When you want to pick a flower, ask permission.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spirit, it's a resource. We don't just grab and take it. We treat it with dignity and respect, but there's no dignity here. And deceit, ruthless, possessive, dominant, sense of entitlement. You owe me, and this whole codependent boundary issue. So again, this is what we're dealing with. And then from that, Jojo, what are we dealing with today in our present culture? So we've got this 10 strategies of mass manipulation. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but the strategy of distraction, what does that mean? So basically, I'm going to get you to look over there to watch these stupid programs while I'm over here organizing a war. It's an example. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll distract us with entertainment, but while they're doing other things. These are the governments that we have in our world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, they create a problem and then offer a solution. For example, the bananas are being diseased. Oh, but now we've got this genetic modified banana that we're going to put in place instead
Mm-hmm.
because all the bananas are diseased. And there's going to be no bananas in another 2 years. So now we've created the genetically modified with chemicals and God knows what else. And we don't even know what these bananas are.
I don't know
It's
why
just
to
new. It's
use
just,
bananas as a simple to express it, but maybe I think it's like when something uh is burned out, we can use a new place, new something, new thing to replace it.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it right?
exactly. But what they'll do, they'll cause a problem with the banana to
Yeah.
implement the other thing. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they'll cause a problem with a herb.
Mm-hmm.
It's not tested. It's not okay to implement a drug. It's just an
Okay.
idea. Yeah. The strategy of graduation. So little by little, drop by drop, we'll implement our new policy. Yeah, and that's because, you're getting sick. Oh, you're getting really sick. Oh, you're getting really sick. So now we need to put in this. It's just an example. And then the next one, strategy of deferring. So deferring is like, oh, tomorrow. Use
Tomorrow.
emotions. Yeah, use emotions, like bombard people with images of death and dying and infection, and oh my gosh, all of these people are dying, so you need to get this injection or this what's it called, jab, to help you to stay healthy, because
Mm-hmm.
look, all these people have died,
Mm-hmm.
and then before you know it, you're dying of fear.
Okay. I'm dying of a fear. That's very make me feel terrible.
Okay, it's just to give you an idea. And then the next one, keep the public in ignorance. So how do they do that? Especially here in Latin America, they don't give the good education. So if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a good education, you can't read, you can't defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, they've got stimulating the public to be complacent to mediocrity. So then they have soap operas on the TV, implementing into people's minds, oh, he's a macho, so I can be a macho. I can mistreat my wife. Oh, I can have 5 wives. I can do whatever. So the same kind of illness, sickness is just being infiltrated through the social circles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Strengthening self guilt. This is a brilliant one. Very clever. Again, it's whole psychological game. But the important thing, Jojo, we need to be aware of this so we don't fall into this trap.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are aware of it and we don't fall into the trap, this
Yeah.
is when we can take back our power. And this
Yeah.
is we can choose, how am I going to live my life? It's not going to be dictated by some
Mm-hmm.
social media message that's going around.
Mm-hmm.
Like in China, my question is, why do so many women not want to have children? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
has gone into the psyche in China that so many women don't want children, Jojo? What
Mm-hmm.
message has been sent through social media for that to happen? I'm just putting it out there. It's just a question. And then the last one, knowing individuals better than they know themselves. So, yeah, so again, if I know you quite well and your weak points, I can manipulate you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just give you. So there's
Okay.
more information on that. I just want to quickly gloss through it. But then, just as a result of that, the cycle just keeps repeating itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? The UN
Mm-hmm.
report points out that the structures of colonialism, sorry, are still present today through ongoing racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and intolerance, which impact human rights and sustainable development. Powerful nations exert control through economic influence or cultural dominance, the prominent white man's culture over formerly colonized nations is still going on. And then you can see the picture, the trauma just keeps on uh,
Oh,
re-traumatizing.
yeah. Oh, okay.
And then this is just, in Israel right now, what's happening? They're starving the
Yeah.
Palestinians, Israel genocide.
And war. Yeah, starving and war.
And it's the same thing all over again. And the other thing I just wanted to point out here, which I think is important, Ireland, the majority of Irish people are trying to defend Palestine. They're going on these marches. But why is this, Jojo? Because we've come through the starvation ourselves and we feel it
Mm-hmm.
deeply in our heart. But again, I don't think demonstrations are the answer to heal
Mm-hmm.
intergenerational trauma, because it's still just causing the same conflict again and again and again. So, what we really need to look at
Mm-hmm.
is how to heal this dominator, colonizer mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at how can we heal a person with low self-esteem, a person who's trying to be a king of the hill. This is what we need to heal. We need to be able to go underneath the surface to those roots of the tree and heal that sickness, the shame, the inbuilt fear, which has been passed down from one generation to the other. And if you remember when I spoke a minute ago about Andrew Jackson, he came from
Mm-hmm.
Irish descent. He came from the same poison. He came from a country that was experiencing genocide. He went through all of that. He had that poison in his being. And then he comes into America and he just spreads that poison around by destroying the Indigenous people,
Mm-hmm.
by passing the Removal Act, by forcing those people to walk on the Trail of Tears from Tennessee to Oklahoma with no heart, rootless. So, my thing, Jojo, is we need to heal the authoritarian, controlling, dictator, dominator mentality in our society.
Mm-hmm.
We heal the poison, the wound. Do you understand?
Yeah. The journey of the healing the soul
So
wound.
that's where we need to get to.
Huh.
That's where we need to get to. Restore a person's inner wholeness, reconnect them with their authentic self, allow for a deeper relationship with God and others, and leading to greater empathy for one another, peace and spiritual growth. And, reclaim that ancestral spiritual wisdom, reclaim that healing power that we all have within us, not just those medicine women. Everybody has this. Reconnect back into the divine and feel that beautiful healing energy and heal ourselves. And so the process of healing is develop personal awareness, recognize how we are, how we're behaving, acknowledge the past, acknowledge what happens. In American schools, they don't teach the children the history, the true story. And this is not just America, this is happening in other countries as well. Understand the soul wound, the legacy, and how it has impacted you, your family, your community, and your nation. Heal one's own soul wound, and then go in through the process of self-realization, become your true self. The journey towards renewal assists one to restore one's connection with your soul essence that you are the communicator, direct communicator with your own higher power, your own soul essence. Restore healthy relations with others based on love, not on fear. Restore a sense of vitality and claim one's authentic, destined soul path. You know, what is my soul path? It's not what my mom says, my dad says, my community says, or my government says, you know. Be a beacon of light for others on the journey and restore your one's divine connection with the universe cosmos, the earth herself, and feel a part of being a part of her, interconnected. I'm not alone. I'm a part of this, you know. Um, Healing intergenerational trauma, healing the energetic poison of this generation and that of our ancestors ensures that the next generations may have a different reality. Society
Yeah.
brings true blessings to its youth when we are willing to step up and do the inner work now that needs to be done. We need to do our own healing. Each person is a string in the tapestry that is being woven. So, personal awareness, you know, what's going on within me? What are my family patterns? Am I being controlling? Am I being dominant? Am I being abusive in my relationships? How can I heal my own inner soul wounding? First point, self-awareness. Then, you know, look at your family history, write about it. Number 3, do mindful self-care practices, meditation, deep breathing, all of the things that I've been teaching. And then healing the soul wound, acknowledge the feelings, acknowledge what's coming up. Lots of times within these communities that have been hurt, we don't feel, we don't talk, we don't express what's happening, and we need to do that in a safe space so we can heal. We don't trust people any longer. Why? Of course we don't, because of abuse, you know. I'm going to take your land, I'm going to tell you everything's fine, and tomorrow it's not. And just one point I wanted to make here, the hanging of the 38 Sioux men on the day after Christmas. And this was the worst massacring of men that they did, the US government. But I just wanted to bring points through the point. You know, when our ancestors are hurt and if they're not healed, their restless soul will be disturbing us as well. And I remember when I lived in Minnesota and I was driving down into Mexico, I passed through Mantoca, my car started to rattle. And I was wondering, what's happening? What's happening? And I went to the mechanic, he said, there's no problem. And once I got out of Mantoca, the car settled down again. So I knew the spirit was trying to tell me something happened in Mantoca. When I got into my motel that night, I checked the internet and learned about the hanging of these men. And I remember a Christian woman in Minnesota saying to me, Maria, in this community, in this state in America, there is such a high incidence of domestic violence, addiction, mental illness, anxiety, depression. And I think it's because of what we did to those Indigenous people. And we never said sorry. We never apologized to them. And their souls are not at rest. And we have an obligation to go back and in our prayers and in our meditations to apologize to these people for what happened, to acknowledge what we did, and just to say sorry, you know, in a sincere, heartfelt way, and to take steps to repair the hurt and damage that's been done. And then that's when true healing can come in as well.
Okay.
The healing of the people. So I'm just going to wrap up here quickly. The creating of the circles, reveal the true story of what happened. You know, in the schools they don't teach the children about what the US government did to these Native people, and this is important because just like I mentioned, if we don't acknowledge it, if we can't, you know, be man enough to say I'm sorry, you know, for what we did to your people, and our children to learn that humility and to recognize, no, we can't, we're not, we don't have a sense of entitlement. We can't just go in somewhere and grab and take. We need to be respectful of other people and other cultures and their belief systems as well. And so fostering the spirit of understanding on both sides can heal the hurt, the shame, the fear, the anger, the bitter, the anxiety and depression. This is what will heal all of us. And so connecting to the earth, reclaiming the feminine wisdom, you know, going back, getting that medicine, that old medicine, that ancestral wisdom, cultivating our intuition, you know, trusting ourselves, connecting to our own higher self once again. The natural cycles, our inner knowing, embracing our creativity, our self-expression, our self-compassion, our care, and reconnect with the earth. Foster supportive communities, like what I'm trying to do here with our circle. Bring people together, create little circles to support one another through this process, so we don't feel alone, and that we're supporting one another through it. Harmony and balance come back. Recognize we can communicate to the mountains and the trees and the rivers, and it's not a sin to do so. It's our birthright. We're connected, we're interconnected with these beautiful beings of light, and they're there to support us and help us. And it's okay to speak with them, and it's okay to connect with them. Yeah. And again, the balancing of the masculine and feminine, we need to come back into harmony again. And we need to help the men to heal and develop their feminine aspects. And we need to bring forth our own masculine aspects. And we call this the balancing of the shields, healing this masculine energy. And then the celebrating of the festivals and the communities, and recognizing the seasons and the cycles. And Yule was the festival that the Indigenous people celebrated in Europe, but now today is called Christmas.
Yeah. So people right now, they always want to important day, maybe just like uh, Christmas, and celebrate, to
Yeah,
celebrate. They have free, they have a freedom
yeah,
to their maybe their soul, they they have a free, they have, oh, they can control their life right now.
lovely. You got it,
Yeah.
Jojo. Exactly, that's it. And then just to say here, and
Yeah.
also our ancestors, they recognize the importance of the support of their ancestors
Hmm.
and the
Yeah.
lineages, and to go
Mhm.
back and to connect in with them and to communicate with them, because they've walked where we've walked, and we have that support, but we just need to
Yeah.
reconnect back into it again. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, because maybe in the past they don't have any right of speaking. They don't have any right of speaking, and because they are very easy to lose their life. But right now they can, mm, they can have the right of speaking. They can express whatever they want to say and whatever they want to do. Okay.
lovely, fantastic, Jojo. And they can pass that wisdom and knowledge and those experiences down to us. And also, the other thing is to recognize it's not just hurt they pass through our lineages, but also they pass through our lineages incredible gifts, like the gift of writing, the gift of singing, the gift of music, all of these
Yeah.
gifts. That they had, and they're being passing on to us, and that we're
Okay.
able to share with others. Okay, and then the community healing. So the
Mhm.
elders say that we have now entered the time when the earth is suffering, and people of all backgrounds in our
Mhm.
world are suffering, but also
Mhm.
coming together, uniting through action to restore balance to ourselves, to others, and to the earth. Indigenous, that's my dog. Indigenous peoples
Okay.
globally have traditions of collective responsibility for the land,
Mhm.
emphasizing community-led initiatives, traditional knowledge, and holistic healing practices as ways to overcome environmental and social crisis. They have the wisdom, they have the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge of dignity, respect, all of this, and we can use that to help us. But we need to hold this sacred vision in our hearts, in our minds, to bring healing, hope, unity, and forgiveness among us. And we
Mhm.
can restore the sacred circle of life, meaning to reestablish balance and harmony with the natural world in one's own being, recognizing the interconnectedness of all life and living in alignment with the natural cycles. This concept, central to many Indigenous traditions and earth-centered spiritualities, involves addressing imbalances caused by trauma or exploitation and nurturing the mind, the body, the soul, and spirit, and community to promote holistic well-being and connection. The
Mhm.
story, and to remember these communities, they're still alive, they're not gone. Even though they tried to kill them off, they're still very present and alive and getting stronger, and they feel a commitment to support non-Indigenous communities through the crisis that we're going through right now. Plant
Mm-hmm.
the seeds. Each day I'm given the opportunity to start over anew and plant a seed that will with tender loving care can one day blossom not only for my own personal well-being but for the generations to come. The journey between who you once were and who you are now becoming is where the dance of life really takes place. Healing intergenerational trauma begins with me. Work on you, be the change you wish to see. This is one of my students yesterday. She came with this and I asked her, can I
Your
take a picture?
student,
Yeah.
your
And I
student,
said,
where she come from? Where's come
Turkey.
from?
She's actually from
Turkey.
Turkey.
Oh, that's so. Yeah, she's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I asked her, can I take a picture because I want to bring this message to people? So, in spite of everything we've gone through and in spite of the challenges we're going to go through in the future, let's choose joy and peace and love. This is our birthright and bring this through.
That's so cute. That's so cute. Have her sentence in his in her clothes, in her
Yeah.
t-shirts. Yeah.
I choose to live by choice, not by chance, to be motivated, not manipulated, to be useful, not used, to make changes, not excuses, to excel, not compete. I choose self esteem, not self
Mm-hmm.
pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not the random opinions of others. I choose to be me. When one sits in the hoop of the people, one must be responsible because all creation is related, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all. And whatever we do affects everything in the universe. Found in the teachings from the Javier University Jesuit Resource website. And there we go, Jojo. So that's it for today. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, my dear.
That's very good. I
Yeah.
think you're very good because, you know, whatever how many students in your lessons, you always can use the full energy to express your mind, um your lessons, your ideas. That's very great because you always be energy. You, yeah. Yeah, so thank you.
Oh,
And
you're
today,
so welcome.
and yeah, today of your 7 lessons. Yeah, in front of the lesson, you introduce many history stories about maybe different countries of the ancestor. What they have faced in the past times. You know, all of the story can make me feel sad
Yeah.
and make me feel why I don't know. I have any questions in my mind about their experience,
Yeah.
especially about women's wife left them experience many cruel things because
Yeah.
it, just like they don't have any right of their life, and they are very easy to lose their life, maybe in a starving times. Maybe they can, maybe just they only just be as a woman, so they have to die. They have to die. That's very cruel, to me when I listen the story. But at the end of the lesson, um, my attitude has changed because the story the story has happened. So we have to face it. We have to see it. We have to
Yeah.
touch it.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, we have to touch it. So we don't we don't pretend, we don't close our eyes to don't see that.
Yeah.
So about the healing journey, I think the first step to ask, we have to see our charmer, maybe our charmer in our soul, in
Exactly.
our heart. We have to see it. So when we can see it, we can heal it. So that's what I have learned in our lesson. That's very important, you know.
Very good,
Yeah,
Jojo.
very
Yeah,
good.
you did a really
Very
nice
good.
job of wrapping up there. Good work, good work. Yeah, it was enjoyable. I mean, there's lots of other things I could have mentioned, but I know we're time constrained, and but I think we got a lot covered, and I think I'm happy. I feel I was able to get the message across.
Yeah.
What happened with the conquerors, what is the process of colonization, what is the
Mm-hmm.
impact of intergenerational trauma, and really
Mm-hmm.
what each and every one of us can do to start healing that. Yeah. And we will
Mm-hmm.
be talking about it more and more in our next session. So that's it for today. I don't want to take any more of your time. I do
Mm-hmm.
want to send a big heart, though, out there to everybody
Okay.
that might get to watch this. Yay!
Yeah.
Big
That's
love
so
to
cute.
everybody and a big,
Thank
big heart.
you.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank
Mwah.
you.
And see you in the next one.
Bye.
Thanks, Jojo. See you in the
Bye.
morning.
Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. See you
See you tomorrow
evening.
in a few
Yeah.
hours. Yeah, after
Yeah.
bed.
Hope you have a good sleep.
Oh, I will
Yeah.
do.
You
I
can.
will do.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye. Thank
Thank you,
you.
dear.
Thank you.
Bye. Say
Bye.
goodbye.
Bye.